Hey guys, welcome back to Builds by Maz. Today I'll be showing you the simple steps we took to create our own modern artwork. We used some different techniques than in our last art video, which allowed us to create this unique and defined texture. I'll also show you how we added the wood frame to elevate the whole look. Let's get started. For this project, we wanted to test out using joint compound. In our last art video, we used spackling, and if you haven't seen that project, you can check out the link in the top right. But the main difference was that this was much softer and easier to work with, and it created a bit of a different texture. We started off by covering the whole canvas with the joint compound before experimenting with different textures. Here you'll see how it can create some really soft looking ridges, and this is the look that we ended up going with. To create this look, you need to load up your putty knife with joint compound and then softly spread it onto the canvas. You can really add a lot of height to the artwork using this technique, giving your whole piece a three-dimensional look. There's no right or wrong way to do this, just make sure you work relatively quickly before anything has time to dry. Here's how our piece looked when we were finished, and we gave it about 24 hours to fully dry. We wanted to paint the piece black and white, and we experimented with a couple different shades before finding the ones that we liked. I started off painting everything white, and I found that the paintbrush really worked the best. I had tried one of these sponge brushes, but I just couldn't get into the ridges properly. You can really use any color you want for this, and the ridges are still going to show through, so you'll be able to see all the texture. You could also leave it unpainted. Here's a comparison showing the left side, which has been painted white, and the right side, which is the cream color, which is the natural color of the joint compound, and it can look good on its own. If you do decide to use paint, here's a little trick that I used. After the first coat, I set the painting on its side for a few minutes and then put it back into place. Here you'll notice some of these runoff spots, which means there were a few areas with excess paint, which is very easy to do with all this texture. By doing this, you get rid of all the accumulated paint and can redistribute it back into the canvas in a thin and even layer. I went back over with my flashlight just to make sure there weren't any remaining hiding pools of paint. After giving that all time to dry, I came back with some black paint. I painted just a thin strip all along the bottom edge. I thought this was a simple and clean look, and it ended up giving the whole piece a very modern finish. The great thing about this abstract art is you can really do whatever style you want. There's no messing up, it's just painting until you think that it looks good. Once the paint was complete, I moved on to the frame. I bought some 1x3s from Home Depot, but I thought this was too thick of a border for this painting. I set up my table saw to the right height and decided to just cut this piece right in half. This was the thinnest wood that I could find that was readily available, otherwise I would have been able to just skip this step and buy wood that was the correct width. This is such a narrow cut, and I didn't feel comfortable feeding the wood all the way through the blade, so I stopped before the end and just trimmed off the excess with my miter saw. This gave me two pieces of wood that were half the original width, and I thought this looked a lot better. I measured out each of the four sides, marking off where I needed to make my cuts. With my miter saw, I cut each piece at a 45-degree angle. This way, each of the four edges will match up nicely and create a clean 90-degree corner. I sanded everything down smooth and then used this English chestnut stain to give it a nice dark brown color. I gave each piece 2 coats of stain and then let everything dry before moving on to the next step. To attach it to the canvas, I just used some strong Tidal Bond wood glue, giving a good layer between the canvas and wood, and then clamped it into place. I let it sit for a couple hours, then removed the clamps and moved on to the next edge. It's important that all your measurements are really precise for this when you're making your cuts, because there's really not much room for error when you're clamping the border into place. Once I had the whole frame glued down, I went back and added some of this satin polyurethane to give it a nice finish. I also added some of this matte clear coat over the surface of the actual artwork just to give it a thin protective layer. The last thing to do was hang this art, and for that I turned to my Dovo laser level. This thing's awesome, and it comes with a customizable mount that has a magnetic strip on the back, so I just stuck it to one of my door hinges across the room. It emits this easily visible green laser, and it's self-leveling, so I know my art's going to be straight. You can also control the diodes by remote, and it comes with a top and bottom horizontal laser and a vertical one if needed. Once I had my laser at the correct height, all I had to do was hammer a few nails into the line and I was good to go. This laser level is great for tons of different applications, but even for something as simple as hanging artwork, it just makes things so easy. If you need a laser level that's accurate and versatile, I've added the code for this model in the description box below, which will get you 15% off. And with that, this project was done. We were so happy with the way this artwork turned out. It's got such a cool texture and really is a unique statement piece. Anybody can do this, it's not very hard, and it's a great way to save money on large pieces of artwork. I hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you next time.